Hey, this is Web3 Talks. The rule of this podcast is simple. We only talk with people who have hands-on Web3 building experience. So if you are a hacker, entrepreneur, or investor, you can get inspired by their stories, lessons, and fuck-ups. My name is Mac, and I'm hosting this pod. If you want to stay in touch, go to twitter.com/web3talks, click the link in the pinned tweet, and join our Discord community. Let's go. Today, we're going to talk about the fascinating part of the crypto industry, the unnamed hero behind all the protocols that move around billions of dollars. And this hero's name is safety and security audits, because without them, we would never trust to send our money to all these protocols. And our today's guest is Rex Hygate, the founder of DeFi Safety. His company has done over 100 safety reviews of DeFi products on Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, Near, and other chains. So, Rex, it's good to see you here.
Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So, before we get deeper, let's start with a warm-up. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us how you ended up in this Web3 space? What's your story?
So my story, I got fascinated by the concept of Ethereum early. I was actually lurking in Reddit when the DAO happened, which was kind of neat. I was trying to figure out what the words mean and what they were actually talking about. That was a big part of it. But afterwards, I realized, no, that was the DAO. But I didn't have any ETH, so I didn't get any OG ETC, not at that point. And then I was involved in one phone call by a guy named Kurt from Consensus, told me, I was talking with him and I said, so how could I get more involved? And he said, go to a hackathon. And as you can see, but the viewers can't, I'm older, I'm past 50. And so I was like, a hackathon? Really? And he said, no, go. And it worked out very well. And, in sitting talking, and you sort of, how can I contribute? And they throw it back at you. How can you contribute? And my coding skills are not good enough to be either a dev or an auditor, but I'm an aerospace guy. I do avionics software. And aerospace has an extremely strict process called DO-178D for the development and update of avionics software. And this process does derive safety. It's immensely expensive and tedious, but it is definitely safe. So I said, I know this and software quality with money and stuff. This is early 2018, so there really wasn't much money, wasn't much happening, but everyone was planning on it. So I said, I'll do this software quality thing. And I got in with the auditors, and they were basically, yes, please do quality. Nobody else is doing it. It needs to be done. We'll support you. And they have supported me. They've given me a lot of help along the way. So that got me started. We did a thing called secureth.org, which is guidance. And I was doing it with Fubadulo, who's very advanced in Viper and Brownie, and he runs a company called ApeWorks. So both of us were working on, we met at this hack at Denver 2018, and we started working on SecureEth. And then, DeFi winter came, and I got involved in other things. And then COVID came, and suddenly I had, shall we say, a lot of spare time. And so you're looking at how to apply yourself. And so I said, well, I'll go back into crypto. And Jay from QuantStamp, she told me, you've got to go into DeFi. They need it so bad. It's just getting started. This was April 2020. So absolutely at the beginning. So, and then you're sitting there going, okay, what is the standard? How am I going to do this? And I spent a long time because I'm a corporate guy. I've been in corporate companies my whole life. In aerospace, they're rigid corporate companies. It's the nature of the industry. And it took me a long time walking around before I suddenly realized that there was nobody to ask for approval. There's some people that you can sort of say, hey, what do you think? But basically, you just do it. Mm-hmm. That's the way crypto is. It's public, it's permissionless. If you want to do something, just do it. If people care, then you're doing the right thing. That's the only way you'll ever get it. So DeFi Safety was born, and it was, say, June when my first reviews came. And the whole thing got started. And now we're up to 11 people. And we've got some wind behind us. We're trying to actually close the circle on financing. That's the goal for the near term. But yes, we're well and truly on our way.
Yeah, like it's a very cool story. And also, like, I have tons of respect that you being over 50, had guts to enter this space where average age is like, I don't know, like 23, maybe 25. Like,
oh no, I'd say 30s, mid 30s. But yeah, it's
no, yeah, and like it's very like this is like internet cultured industry. So like it's
yes.
very, a lot of memes, a lot of jokes, everyone is online, and it's not a like easy space for most 50-year-old people to get in. But as you said, you were on Reddit back then, so I guess you are very accustomed to this kind of culture.
A little bit. I mean, I think the main point, what it comes down to, and this I think is just something that you just probably mostly born from and you develop, but I've always been learning. It's not work for me. I'm always delving deep into all kinds of things. And I love big complex systems. And Ethereum is a big complex system, the whole blockchain thing. And when your imagination starts going on where it can go, and it was, all the way through 2017, 18, 19, it was like, I want to get involved in this. And then in 2020, the door opened and I got a chance. And I was smart enough to walk in. And of course, let's just say I had less options then. So it was an easier decision. It's not like I quit my job.
Yeah. Okay. And, I've spent some time reading DeFi safety reports, and they are pretty detailed. Like you check out the team, code, documentation, even bug bounties, like how high they are, whether they are active, and so on and so forth. But despite the fact that they are comprehensive, they are very easy to understand, even for non-technical user.
Thank you very much. That is an intent, and it's good to hear.
And they are free, which is like, when I take all these things together, I'm wondering, like, what's the story with DeFi Safety sharing these reports for free? Because I guess these are the things that people might pay for. So I'm wondering, is it like your way of, promoting the company and then you get, some business deals from the protocols, or like, how does it work?
To start with, you're doing them for free just to get some stuff out into the community. And the business model, I was actually thinking of retail integrating with wallets, though I had a lot of people saying retail is tough, you shouldn't do that. And, but it wasn't something serious until I would say the 7th protocol I did was Yearn. And this is Yearn when Yearn just started. And we do the report, and the report was simpler then. It was version probably 2 or 3. But either way, I went through the questions on their public data, and then I present it to the devs and say, what do you think? So at that point, the devs was Andre. Yearn was Andre. And, I think he got a 65 for Yearn V1. And he was completely, that's about right. My documentation's not so good and such. But he really liked the idea. And I was talking to him a little bit about how I could do a fundraise or something. And he just basically shoveled some money at me.
No.
Not a huge amount, but he basically was like, just keep going. This is great. And that was a big eye opener because all of a sudden it was like, I can actually do this. So that was step 1. And then I joined Kernel Block 2, the Gitcoin kernel group. And my adventure was, how the heck do I raise money for DeFi Safety so I can grow more? And I had a good business background. I actually ran a business. I was doing R&D. I was doing the accounting. I was doing the sales and business development. So I learned a lot there. But actually developing, doing fundraising, I had nothing. So the kernel guys guided me all the way through that. We did a seed round and raised a mill. And then this brought us to where we are now. And now we are literally, I think tomorrow we will be doing our transition to revenue. We have 2 new products, contract scores and chain scores, and we will be charging for them. And then we're actually going to do another funding round. We're just starting the conversation on that. With all of this, it'll sort of jump us ahead. And our market that we've pivoted to are organized investors, be they DeFi investors, funds, banks, family houses, and even people who are researching DeFi. It's like, oh, I'm not allowed to do this, but we have to understand this. And my job right now is I've got to learn. They'll subscribe to our data, and people are used to paying for data. So that's our market right now. And early indications are pretty good. I think we're going to be able to keep the lights on using this model.
Okay, like it sounds that you really are on the right track, because even from my perspective, like if I wanted to invest like larger sums of money, I would definitely want to be sure that the protocol is safe, like especially taking into account, the last events in the crypto space, like, this Luna story.
It hurts so much. People in the space, myself included, we knew that this thing could explode. I mean, it's very difficult for you to say that that thing is going to blow. I guarantee it. You didn't have that kind of certainty, but the risk was loud and flashing. And one thing I truly wish, and I really hope DeFi Safety will contribute in this, we got to set up a kind of a rating system so that you're able to tell the public, this is an R-rated investment. Stick with PG and general unless you really want R, and you could get hurt. There's blood in R, but there's gains in Rs. It's much more fun, perhaps. So this is something, and we're doing part of that, not the whole thing. And for only part of the market, like the more established part, and you've got other organizations that are doing like hunting for rug pulls on things that are brand new. But all of this has to be combined so that we're communicating to the retail, this is safe, this is good, this, stay away. And we can do that. And I really hope that we can, because it's time.
So follow up on that, like, what are the most common problems and issues that you see in protocols?
It's getting better. And that's a wonderful thing to say. When we started, and if you jump into the shoes of a protocol developer in May 2020, these guys, they're just coding. And they might have a business guy who's doing the tokenomics and the financials, but they're not whole organizations like banks looking at everything. And they didn't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? And so the whole idea of you should be transparent so that complete strangers with no regulatory hooks on you whatsoever can still trust you. And of course, when transparency is done right in DeFi, you can trust them more than you can TradFi, because you can see everything. It's all there. And even if you don't understand it, somebody in the community does, and this community speak will all be there. Anyway, so transparency is one. That's the biggest thing. And transparency is lacking with a number of people. The second thing is really, it's effort. Do you have a bunch of people who are doing the work that they should do rather than the minimum work they need to do? Some people, they get the protocol up, money's coming in, they'll do work to bring in more money, but in documenting your code, making sure you have good tests, and updating things, no, they're just not doing it.
Yeah, like, because they are more focused on money, I guess. So.
Yes, but the good ones are focused, we're going to do the work, we're going to be here for a long time. And when you get, and our protocol brings that out, we don't have a question, did you put effort in? We don't have that. But it becomes apparent through the 28 questions, did they and are they willing to do the work? And, if you want to make a multi-billion-dollar global bank that will last for years, which is kind of what these guys are trying to do, then, yeah, you're going to have to push a lot of things and do things that you don't normally do, because this is a serious money affair. And you have to show the people, I'm going to, by showing that effort, it's like, I respect your money and I will ensure it is safe. So I would say transparency and effort are the two things that we're looking for, and it's getting better, but it's still very varied. There's very low quality things. and there's very high quality things. And they're not always the big things are high quality. Most of them are, but it's not always that case.
And what are the biggest red flags that you see, or the most common red flags when you look at the protocols?
Transparency, lack of transparency is a big red flag. And not having a real audit is another big red flag. Because if a protocol doesn't have an audit, that may mean they can't afford it, they didn't have time, or they're still waiting. These are perfectly valid reasons that somebody could have. If somebody went out and got an audit that they knew it's nothing but a piece of paper designed to be able to say, I've got an audit, then you know what they're thinking. So that's the other red flag. And we're professional audit readers. We don't write audits. We're not that good with the code, but we read audits all the time. So we're able to realize what's a good quality audit and what is just a pretty document that really hasn't checked hardly anything. And so, yeah, though I would say those are the two red flags.
And, when I'm a retail user, how can I protect myself against this? Apart from, going to DeFiSafety.com and reading the reports, because
that was my answer. That is what I was going to say. So you do that. That's a good step. If you're going into something that is relatively new or even not something new, look at the community. And if you can, if you have let's say a different Twitter account or a different Telegram account, go in and find something that you're worried about with the protocol and mention it. And what you're looking for here is the reaction. If the reaction is to ban and you're being yelled at for spreading FUD, that is a giant red flag. And you would have gotten that on Terra. When people all they want to hear is good news, it's a red flag. Now, it's not always meaning the thing is going to collapse. Shibaswap, we did a bunch with Shibaswap, and the Shiba Army is very strong. But it's a meme coin. They want it to go up, and it goes up by enthusiasm. I get that. But there's nothing bad going on in there. To the best of my knowledge, everything has been nice and clear. So that red flag is not never go into it, but it is be much more cautious. So that's an easy thing that people can do. And even just look. And if you're watching the Telegram and somebody says something bad and they're pounded on, that's a big red flag. If somebody says something and somebody says, no, now, this is what we're doing, this is why they're after, that's a green flag. They're open to discussion and they believe in what they're doing, they're enthusiastic, but they're willing to talk to people. So yeah, so that's another one. And another thing, if you cannot understand how they make money, and if you go back to Terra, Anchor Protocol, where's the 20% coming from? Who's paying 35% for my money? And if you can't answer that, another thing with DeFi protocols, a lot of the time it's 1,000%, but it's all the token. Like you're making 8% on it, and the token goes from 0 to 1, and your amount goes ballistic. Okay, that's fair. That's the way DeFi works, and lots of people have gotten rich on that. But understand the way that slope works, the danger of being on the wrong side of that slope when the line starts to go down. It's just, so I would tend to say you look at the ROI, if you can understand it, like a liquidity pool in Uniswap, you can understand I'm getting paid here. Impermanent loss took me a while to learn. That's another story. But the point is you understand where the fees are coming from. You're making this money. Compound and Aave, they're loaning stuff. I get that. So if you don't understand where the money is coming from, except for token go up that's an understanding. That's fair. But if you don't understand where the money's coming from, that's another red flag. So yeah, I would say those. So community, DeFi Safety, which looks at the technical stuff so that you don't have to. And then just take an honest look at the ROI. And if you can't understand it, be careful.
Okay. And could you describe, Rex, how does this review process look like in DeFi Safety? So for example, I have a protocol, I come to you and I say, Rex, could you take a look at it?
We get requests all the time. Normally it needs to have like $500,000 worth of TVL and a little bit of enthusiasm to make the higher point of our list. And then what will happen, and honestly, most protocols don't ask for it. What we get is investors asking for it. Most of our requests, I think, and a lot are anon, so we're not really sure, but I think a lot of them is just, I'm looking at investing it in this thing. What do you think? And we look at it very, very quickly and give a one paragraph in Telegram sometimes. That's your super quick. And then we'll say, we'll put it in the list. So generally the protocol doesn't know that we start. And we look at their public data. We go through the 28 questions. And if you want to know what the 28 questions, just read our report. They're all there. And we go through the 28 questions and we develop answers for it. We make a complete report. That takes a day or two. And then the next step is to try and talk to the devs. And in the early days, the devs were just, DeFi who? I'm sorry, I'm busy. And, a lot of the time you just published anyway. Now I'm happy to say our name's a bit bigger. And when we now have an awful lot of the time where they're saying, so why is our score? How can we improve this? And anything they can do in a short time, they'll do. And we'll give them time to do that because we want the protocols to be better, clearer in transparency. And we're doing it. Actually, I didn't develop version 0.8. My guys did, which is fantastic. There's nothing better than making a process and your team can actually run with it. So that was super. But anyway, they added the admin control sections. And the idea was, if your code is updatable, please, in a simple, straightforward, single page, say what's updatable, how long does it take to update, how is the decision made? We've got the whole DAO thing and such. And then who has the keys? Is it one person? Is it a multi-sig? What's the address of the multi-sig? It's not a lot of data, but just put it clearly and give it in language that an investor can understand. And if you think about it, if you give money to, let's say, a family house investor, so keeping it small, that guy has complete control of your money. He has the keys to your crypto in TradFi language. He can do anything. And he can run away with the money. He can put it in things and tell you other things. And you're trusting on his reputation and the documentation and the fact that he's regulated to cover all of that. So it's not terrible that a DeFi protocol can update the protocol. It's nice if you can say, hey, we'll put a week or 2 week time lock on it. Though Compound has now learned the other side of a time lock. So it's not all positive. But the important thing is tell the investors and let the investors make the decision. And when we started, hardly anybody did this. And we've slowly done it. And the guys were just setting up some stories we're going to permissionless next week. And what things that we can talk, because we'll have a booth like a real company. A lot of companies, they looked at our score and their score was, say, 96 last time, and now it's 85. Why? Well, we added this new section and you're not doing it. Oh, and then they're sort of like, well, it's not unreasonable. Okay. And they're adding the information, and that makes, it's better for investors. They just come and they read and they go, okay, it's an updatable program. They can change it in a day. All right, I accept that. And then the investor, he was told it was in language he could understand, and he still invested. So fine, So that was a big thing where the process was improved.
Yeah, when I'm listening to that, I feel that it's just like SEC is taking part in regulation and they give all the guidelines, but they also give some bans away to people around and so on. Like here, I see that what you're doing is this permissionless part of auditing thing. Like, you do whatever you can with the public data, and like you cannot ban any protocol, of course.
No.
But what you can do is, show their score to the public, which creates this
name and shame.
Yeah,
that's what we're doing. Name and shame.
Yeah,
and then if you want, you can improve things.
Yeah, so you incentivize them by making this data, because this data is public, but you make it easy to understand. Mm-hmm. You add some context and so on.
Yeah. Allow an apple-to-apple comparison.
Yeah. So I think it's very interesting, because you are taking part of self-regulation of the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not so much regulation, but certainly guidelines.
Yeah.
So we're doing guidelines for the users, but a lot of devs, we've had devs, and we end up talking to devs all the time because it's part of our process. And a lot of them are just, thank you. You're telling me what I'm supposed to do, because there's no books on this and I'm all on my own here. And it's like, okay, I've got to have my contract addresses in there. I should say what my team is, where they come from. It's a checklist. And it's not everything, but it's at least some information. And it's becoming a de facto standard. You know, the guidelines, you don't have to do it, but if you don't, you get a low DeFi safety score. End of story. So, yeah.
Okay. Going back to the industry, like, you're basically a B2B company in some sense, because, you're addressing this bigger clients, typically some funds or bigger investors. So I'm wondering, like, how do you acquire clients so far, or how do you plan to do it?
So we didn't ask for money a year ago. And, we just finished our raise. So we didn't really need to. But if we tried to do this a year ago, it would have been much harder. But now a lot of the industry, the TradFi industry, are definitely saying, we've got to get into this, or at least we have to understand. Because if the other guy gets into it and he's making 3 points more than me, all my clients will run to him. So now there's a lot of people and there's a lot of organizations that are starting up that are, hey, we're investing in this and we're going to do a weekly call, and Diffuse does that. So it's easier now in order to do it. And we're going to shows like Masari in September, Permissionless next week. These are money shows. I mean, we went to F Denver too, but that was honestly more for fun and just to get to know the community. But the working shows, that's where we plan on getting the clients. And we're still working on that whole model. But it's, we're a niche client aiming at this, at a traditional finance block, plus parts of DeFi. So it's a road well traveled. People know how to do that. So we will be getting advice on how to do that in order to get more clients. But right now, it hasn't been too bad. Certainly hasn't been hard. We've got a lot of people and different people that are interested in talking to us. Some that are just doing research and they're like, yeah, I'll buy your data, no problem. So now we've got to get the website up so that they can actually buy the data and we get the money. But it's in work.
Yeah, regarding this traditional finance, actually, I was so confused by the fact that Wall Street Journal can write such stupid articles that show that they have no understanding whatsoever. I've seen Goldman Sachs reports that didn't make sense at all. I've seen CEO of JP Morgan that was saying, yeah, how do you know there are 21 million Bitcoins? The fact that these people that are super smart, they are very smart in finance, but they just don't have this knowledge, this also, deep understanding of all these new things that are happening there, that I think that your service is going to be super useful to them.
What we thought when we were looking at them is these guys know finance if they're willing to get in there. They know the regulation, and we're not going to answer that. And they know how to manage risk. But the technical risk, all of this, hacks and stuff, it's like, I have no clue. And it's impossible to try and hire somebody who's an expert in the number of bodies is just so limited. So that's our service. And until these skills, either the technical standard of the industry is so consistently high that we're not adding value, or there's way more people than we have a market.
Okay. And, talking about traditional finance, because when I was reading about DeFi safety, I was thinking, okay, you're not doing audits yourself, but you're doing these reviews that people take into account when they make their decisions. I had the thought, okay, traditional finance way was like Enron that bribed Arthur Andersen to just get a better audits, and everyone was trusting them, everyone invested in them, and then we all know how it ended up. So I'm wondering how your company, and I know it is different, and I'm curious to hear how are you talking about it, how DeFi safety is different from that, how are you not that easy to be bribed as, traditional finance?
So I'm still waiting for somebody to really try and bribe me. But so that would be fun. We haven't had that yet. However, our process kind of hides it. Transparency doesn't let it happen. we could lie about a protocol and say they have all of these wonderful things, but then we have to provide links to their documentation. So our community would be able to call us out real quick and our cred goes down. And basically, all we have is our credibility. So that would be a deal killer. So based on the fact that we're on public information, it really does not, it closes that door. I wouldn't say it closes it entirely, but it makes it a lot more awkward. And this is something, it's kind of interesting because we have to be open because we have to have people who are able to trust us, the protocols, because we're not legal. So we can't sort of have an office or be regulated. So we have to be transparent. And that's kind of the way the space is. But you don't, your protocol doesn't have to be transparent. But if you want somebody to trust you, you sort of have to.
Mm-hmm.
As DeFi becomes regulated and people are able to do it, and we're seeing this as a bit of a trend, people are going to say, no, I'm not going to show my IP. I'm going to keep it as secret as I can because that's my value. I don't want somebody to just fork me. So that will be an interesting point because then when the information is hidden, then the whole idea of bribing and knowing the right person becomes easier. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this develops because there's a lot of different things at play and the regulation is totally not out. Mm-hmm. So it'll be really neat to see what actually happens.
Yeah, now that you say it, like in Enron's case, they could make up the numbers because they were the one.
Because it was secret. Nobody could check.
Yeah.
Nobody could look back and say, hold on, this column says this column says that. Why is this, that doesn't add up? And can say it publicly. If they said it publicly to Enron, they get sued. That's IP. That's my information. You're not allowed to say that publicly.
Yeah.
This is different. And this adds a lot of security, but it also has some negatives. And it's a derivative of us being not regulated out in the Wild West. So it's exactly how it's going to end up is going to be interesting. We have not seen the final chapter by any means.
Okay. And, I have another question regarding people because, there's a big shortage of people, skilled people in the Web3 industry. Like there's tons of talented people coming, but still like, when you get to crypto jobs list or any service like that, you see tons of opportunities to get a job. So it means that they are looking for new talents. So I'm wondering, like, how do you recruit new people? As you need to have people who are, they understand this also on a technical level, which is not that common.
The really deeply hard to find people are people who understand Solidity. And you have to, it's more than just the language. It's more than just learning the language. You have to understand the way the blockchain works behind it to be able to understand the nuances of it and finance. So that's hard to find. So far, what we've been doing is we've been getting business people, business new grads, really. And we've been training them and they've been learning. And right at the beginning, even during COVID, it was like, no, we're all going to be in one room and we're going to talk a lot. That process has to date worked quite well. So we've been able to breed experts. I mean, if you look at Nick, and Dave to a lesser extent, these guys are respected by the industry. They're writing very good articles. People are listening to them. People are asking to talk to them. You would have, and they started from nothing and they just learned and they learned fast. It was so far we have a method because we start them on our very rigid process. Answer these 28 questions. So it's not, well, now you've got to learn about DeFi or please write me something. It's like, answer these 28 questions and then do it for the next protocol and you learn fast. So we're able to generate people, we believe. We'll see how far it ends.
Okay. So one last question in this section, like, do you plan to becoming a DAO in the long run? I know that at this stage, it's not your goal, but in the long run, do you think of becoming some kind of a DAO?
A DAO is just a structure that you can use. We plan on being the best global source for independent technical data on DeFi. That's our goal. And right now, a token and a DAO complicates things and it doesn't make things easier. And we really want to focus on just doing what we're doing. And of course, we're legal. we're looking at the internet and we're publishing information based on the internet and we're selling our IP. So what we do is legal. So why not just a registered company for now? And we may have an aspect of a DAO. I really love that. And I remember I had a lot of people. Griff Green's one of our investors, and he was like, "Come on, release a token. It's a bull market." It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we shied away from it, and I don't regret that right now, though it would have been fun. So we'll see where exactly it all ends up. But right now, I think a company is the better way for us to grow and to help the industry.
Okay. So I have four last questions. So the first one is, what were the most mind-blowing Web3 projects that you have seen so far?
I was thinking about this. I mean, the main ones for me, and I remember when they started Curve Yearn. I mean, a lot of people are, oh, they're so yesterday, but most of the money in DeFi is made in Curve. It's absolutely freaking brilliant. And he keeps it at the bleeding edge. And the number of people who've tried to fork Curve and face planted is large. It's tough. And Yearn also, the AMM is definitely something that people are reproducing in large numbers, but yet they are still a dominant player. And a lot of it is because of the depth that they have. They're really dealing with it. Like we're managing other people's money. We have processes. We have a staff of people to do it. So those two are my big ones. I mean, seemingly Beam Protocol is really good. Nick Vink really, really likes them. And there's a number of very, very interesting new protocols that are coming out. But for me, still, the big ones are Curve and Yearn.
What has been the funniest thing that happened to you in this space? Like something that made you smile or laugh?
We did smile, but it was a bit interesting at the time. So I guess around this time last year, Shibaswap came out. And the day it came out, we were like, hey, Shibaswap's going to be a big thing. Shiba's a big coin, so we got to check this out. And they had absolutely no transparency whatsoever. No contract addresses, no documentation, no GitHub, nothing. They had one question where they had a white paper. That was it. So they got 3%. And we said, let's publish this right now, just as soon as it comes out. And we were all just chuckling. We went out for drinks. We were having a great time. And our first time, we actually pumped the tweet, which we'd never done before. We didn't really know what we were doing, but we did it. And the Shiba Army came after us. Oh boy, they were not happy. And that whole process, that was a nervous time, but that was fun.
Yeah, so like Shiba Army is powerful. I don't know, year ago, they had so many people on Twitter just going around. And
it was fun.
Okay, so next question, if our listeners would like to learn more about DeFi Safety, where should they go?
Pretty much everything is on the website. And if you go to the knowledge base, you'll be in there. If you, the only other thing that we have a GitHub library that we're not using that much because we moved all of our documentation onto the website. So it's all sort of database based but before we had a GitHub, which has all of our history in it. So yeah, but almost all of it, that's like docs at defisafety.com and then defisafety.com. And then our Medium articles, they're all in the knowledge base in there. So that's where you can find it.
Okay. And Twitter?
Yeah, we're at DeFi Safety.
Okay.
Our Telegram is in there. We have a Discord, but somehow it hasn't really caught on. Maybe it's our fault or I don't know, but we're basically Twitter and Telegram.
Yeah, Discord is a whole other thing. I'm still trying to understand it, how to make it work. Okay, so I have last question, and it's as we had this conversation about this Web3 business, I'm wondering, do you have any people in your mind that might be a good fit for the conversation that we had here? People who build, either DeFi or other Web3 businesses.
Greg from Windows Finance is one person that I would recommend. He's putting together a DeFi protocol and with some interesting aspects using our data. And then obviously our two Nicks are very interesting. They're more technical because I've been sort of stepping back and doing new product development and stuff like that and the business stuff. So those guys would be able to go on in detail. They're the ones who are always talking to the devs and such, so they can both contribute quite a bit, but there would be a certain degree of repetition, but they have all of the details.
Okay. Rex, thank you a lot for this conversation. It was interesting to look at DeFi in a new way, especially as we said, in the light of the latest events. So
yes,
I think it's going to be very valuable to people. And I will definitely always check DeFi Safety before I put my money in any DeFi protocol.
Thank you very much, Mac. It's been great talking to you. This has been really fun.
Yeah, and see you on Permissionless, because actually I'm going next week. So
oh, cool.
Yeah,
booth 818. You'll find
great. Tomorrow I have my flight to Miami, so I'm getting ready.
Yeah, we're going on Monday.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
So see you there.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.